Hello, greetings one and all. I am conducting a Facebook Live. Today is September 20, is it 26? Yes. And today I am conducting this Facebook Live because I'm being guided by Spirit to talk about everything about what's happening out there collectively. And I've been getting a lot of downloads galore from over the weekend. And so I am being guided, like I said, to do this Facebook Live so that way that we can really start to do some shifting. And for anyone who feel that they may not understand anything that I say, give yourself some time. You know, I say maybe in a week or two or perhaps a month or so from now, and then it might make sense to you today. So I want this to be kind of interactive. I took a lot of notes because I received a lot of downloads from over the weekend. I'm sure for some of you, you may have had the same thing occur with you. And I could feel in the energy that there's a lot of questions and wondering what's going on and what's happening and trying to make sense out of everything, you know. So anyway, I'm going to start out. I'm being guided to start out firstly with some light language because there's some fear, energy, and there's also confusion in some cases that I'm feeling coming from some. And I also feel like just feeling lost and confused. So I'm here to help to clarify things as always. So you may not understand what I'm speaking, but it will resonate within your soul because we're here to connect with one another from the soul frequency and not just the physical body. Arashtanda ikainda lukunda rapatato resela intamba rakitelokunde rapatata kasota shara katanimina rakitarakudu bilar patarkosolo rebreke rapatar bogorvo ilam marainda rapatalamina rapete onda ramne omne omna rapatanda rapetenda rapakondunda rapindera ay andare mero mare me che no mare me non nare betetandum nare ay nare menendo la bende ay And I just want everyone to take a deep breath who's listening right now and be still and know that God is in the midst of everything and all things that are transpiring in your lives right now. And so whatever messages that you are going to receive today, just know that no matter what level of consciousness where you're at, that you are being divinely guided at this moment, at this time to what you're to hear. Blessed are those who have ears to hear and eyes to see, and the wisdom and the knowledge and the power of discernment to know what is spoken. Now, I'm going to play a video that I did post on Facebook on September 24th, which was Sunday past. And I'm going to play it so you can hear it, because what's happening is that a lot of the divine feminine have been clearing out before in previous months, whatever has been happening in regards to the patriarchal energies. And so now it's kind of like switching doing a flipping of the switch. And this is where we are clearing out a lot of things to do with the matriarchal energies. Okay, the old matriarchal energies of what has existed in the past. So I'm going to play this video, and it's from Tina Turner. She published this from back in 2009. And it's teaching of mindfulness and going beyond. Hello, greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining and for all of us being on here tonight. And it teaches mindfulness and what this is about, because anyone who's ever had a reading from me or have spoken to me know how much I go into details about everything. And I always go higher first in perspective, and I go higher first as far as what is happening before I go lower, because, you know, we're bringing both worlds together, the spiritual and the physical. So I'm going to play this. It's about 7 minutes long, and this is about hearing and listening what's flowing through you, and how we're connecting to the maternal frequencies that is within each and every one of us. And then I'm going to go into even more details of what is happening in the stemming from the solar eclipse, because even though the solar eclipse occurred on August 21st, it doesn't mean that it's over. That frequency of what has happened to the eclipse is what had to come into place in energy for what has to shift with everyone, and has to shift on the planet, and has to shift within each and every person, whether it's individually and collectively, depending on what your path is. And the more you allow yourself to over and understand what is happening, the easier your journey shall become. So I'm going to play the video. This is about listening now, and not just with what you're hearing, but listening to the message, listening to what comes forth with the sound and the music. And that's why I was guided to do the tones and the language from in the beginning when I started talking. So here goes. Plugged out the wrong one. I'm having speaker problems. Oh, shit. Oh, it plugged out. Just having little technical difficulties. Come on. Go. Okay. I can hear it, but I know you can't hear it. Oh, there it is.
We need a repeated discipline. It genuine training to let go our old habits of mind and to find and sustain a new way of seeing beyond the and the wrongs. Prayer clean. Go beyond to feel the oneness of the unity. Sing takes you beyond, 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 beyond. We are all the same, all the same. Looking to find our way back to the source, to the one, to the own. Go beyond revenge. The greatest moment in our lives is when we allow us to teach each other. Go beyond to feel the oneness of the unity. Singing. Singing takes you beyond, beyond, beyond. Take the journey. Take the journey inside of you. Quiet to hear beyond. To become patient. Beyond. Not open and grateful. Beyond. Be in the present. Start every day singing like the love grows when you trust. Trust, love heals and renews. Love inspires and empowers us to do great things and makes us a better person to love. Love makes us feel safe and brings us closer to God. Go beyond. That's where you find true love. Keep singing. Singing takes you beyond. 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 Beyond.
So I apologize for the technical difficulties for the video, but I wanted you to get the message of going beyond and bringing ourselves back to unity consciousness, and also how much more we're collapsing the duality separation consciousness and what that means for us and where it's taking us. And there's so much to know and to understand about our journeys and our paths. And I say to you that even if you do not understand what your own path is or someone else's path is, allow yourself to go beyond what you see with your physical eye and start from within your heart and what's shifting and paying attention to the signs, the messages and everything. So anyway, I took notes. I took a lot of notes today, and I do want this to be interactive. If you wanted to hear more of the video, I do have it on my timeline where I posted as Tina Turner spiritual message, going beyond, connecting to that mother energy within ourselves, because usually we turn to our mothers for guidance and also where we want to have some, I would say, attaining at least some wisdom, because, you know, anyone that knows that the feminine principle is in regards to wisdom. And when we allow ourselves to attain that wisdom, it's what taps into that universal knowledge. And it also allows us to connect to that knowledge and where it takes us with our lives right now in this present moment as we continue to shift. So if you see me looking away, it's because I'm looking at my notes, because I don't want to leave anything out. Please feel free to ask me any questions or anything you feel that you might want me to discuss. Please do not hesitate to ask me any questions or anything like that. So what I wrote here is that we are still in the equinox, we're in the equinox, autumn equinox, but we're still within the solar eclipse frequency and energy that started from August 21st, which is a representation of what had been separating anything that I would say that doesn't serve the whole. Okay, as I've always said in my teachings, that the way how things started for us is that the soul desires to know itself experientially. We cause ourselves to forget who we are so we can remember who we are. Always remember that when you're in the experience of something that's happening in your life and you're trying to understand what it is and it's affecting you, is that there's something that's within your soul. It's not a learning lesson. I know there's some who teach it, but I speak on it as far as remembering yourselves. And we're all here to awaken each other. And we're all here to awaken each other from what has been separated to come back into the wholesomeness of yourself. And that includes your family and your children and who you're interacting with on a daily basis. And sometimes some of that shifting and what's happening is taking place in the dream state, whether it's a sleeping dream or a waking dream. Okay. And all of this is important as far as what you're balancing as we are in the Libra season. And anyone knows Libra is a representation of the balancing of the scales. And so everything that we're doing and encompassing with the balance of the scales, it means that certain things that is not for your highest good, as I've always stated before, is going to be stripped away. And there's more of this veil that's getting thinner. The illusions are falling off more. The veil is also showing you everything that is happening out there. And I'm going to discuss everything that's that's going out there, that's being discussed, whether it's in the news. I don't watch the news, but I am aware of things that are going on, and whatever I'm guided to speak about and to pay attention to, I'm going to do that. So that way we have more clarity, and that way you will have yourself feeling more at peace with whatever you're experiencing. Okay. And so remember that this is about how we're healing the mind, the body, and the soul, ascending and descending. And some of us are going into separation from others, because as some of us continue to ascend within ourselves and what level of consciousness that we're heading, that means that there are some who may not be able to resonate to your frequency, and they're going to fall off. It might be temporary, it might be permanently. So even if something is affecting you and you're feeling triggered by someone and they've separated from you and it bothers you, take heart to paying attention to what's happening to you, because whatever is happening to them, it's that time for them to go off and to get to whatever state that they need to get to for themselves while you're still continuing. You can't hold yourself back on your journey, no matter what your journey is. Okay. And in some cases, like I said, they may come back and they may not come back. And it might be someone that you love the most, and it might be someone that the journey is up and that's it. And it's time to release and to let go. Because we cannot hold ourselves back to us, because we all are here to make choices. And that choice even includes to ascend. There's some who may not ascend while they're in the body. There may be some who are going to more ascend out of the body, because the frequencies are getting higher and higher and higher. I cannot begin to tell you how much downloads that I've received within the past 3 days, even and including today. It just keeps coming and coming and coming. And it's like anybody who's in conversation with me is like keeping up with, it's like my higher self is already within me. And it's like wherever my higher self says to go, to do, to be, that's it. And all of us, our higher selves are coming in more and more. And so even if something came out of your mouth, say, but why did I say that? Because that's a part of your soul that is acclimating, because most of us are acclimating everything that we know, or what there is to know, that we've known for centuries, and that is what is happening in the physical body. So some of you may be having things happening with your physical body in conjunction to what you know, where you might have, I would say, the headaches, you might have eczema come up on your skin, the sleeping habits change, pain that's coming into parts of your body and your leg. And some of you might be going to the doctor trying to find out why your heart is palpitating fast, when it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the ascension. So, this is the time to wakey even more than before, because your doctor may not be able to find out, because it's energy that is passing through you, that either, if you're not paying attention to it, it's either to clear it out, whether from healing or just to look at it from the perspective of how you see it. So that way you're able to move forward and go to the next stage of wherever you are in your journey. And in most cases, there's some who may not really understand, and they're taking it more on the physical level as far as what they're seeing, and then it causes more pain. So if you know you're at a place where it's time to surrender to whatever there is, then do surrender, because it is for your best and your highest. Even if you don't understand what it is, then consult with someone that might be able to help you see a bigger picture behind it. Because even for myself, sometimes I have someone that I say, hey, I had a dream about this. Can you help me to see what more I can get from it? Because when it comes to how the divine works, it's that the messages are going to come in like the floodgates, and it's going to be more than one message that you might get from what you dream, what you see around you, if you're paying attention. That's if you're paying attention. So one of the things that Spirit wants me to talk about is it has to do with how much releasing of the understanding that you may not have, an understanding about your higher self and your soul and the experiences that you're having, and go beyond it, because we are really moving into our soul's truth. And if you're not moving into your soul's truth, like I said, things are starting to break down now. Even this week, coming up Thursday, I keep getting this message that Jupiter is going into moving forward, and that means that secrets and stuff is going to start to come out. So that means that more things are going to be revealed, and more things are going to be coming forth even more than before. And a lot of things that have started out from the beginning of time has to do with what has been separated. And what has been separated is what is bringing itself back together again from within the higher aspect of the soul, and acclimating into the body. Okay, so what I know is that I want to talk about what has been going on as far as the weather is concerned, and what that means in terms of the earthquakes, the tsunamis, the floods, the hurricanes. And what it is that the shifts that has been happening internally, especially within the feminine frequency, which can be inhabited by a male or female body, and it's a part of Mother Earth. There are certain people in certain locations where it's affected by them, because a lot of our ancestors have gone through a lot of stuff from in the past. Some souls are still roaming the earth from pain and stuff that they have had, and that energy of whatever has been experienced in each location is what is healing and clearing out. And in that respect, there are also those that are in the physical body that their souls are being pushed to relocate into another location, because anywhere that is holding a frequency of, I'll give you an example of indifferences, prejudice, anger, everything that society has gone through and experienced, all of that energy is what is shifting. And the way how it has to shift is something has to break up and fall apart. And it's either represented through water, or it might be represented through the hurricane, or it might be represented through the tsunamis and all of that stuff. So for some, they may look at it like, oh, the world is coming to an end. What is coming to an end is the old structures. That's what occurred on the 23rd, because I know some people out there were putting it out there that the world was coming to an end, that same foolishness about the world coming to an end. The world is not coming to an end. And if somebody else comes with another date, it's still not going to happen. It's not where the earth is going to be destroyed again. This is where the earth is shifting through the elements of the earth, such as the hurricanes, tornadoes. All of that is happening for what is to shift on the planet. And that is the truth. That is what is happening. And it's taking place on a much stronger level. I already had a dream about Armageddon that was taking place on the earth. I don't know where it was taking place, but I have a feeling it was in New York. And I already had a dream about a month ago where there was a tsunami that was taking place in New York. And I know that when and if it happens, it has to do with some area in Manhattan where most of the monetary system has had so much control over people for centuries, a lot of control over people. And it's all of these paradigms that are breaking down. Okay, and it has to do with the monetary system, because anything that we're really heading back to, as far as people say, how are we going to live? How, if you're so wound up tight when it comes to money and stuff like that, I just say woe unto you, because you see, everything else that we're recreating in our new earth is not going to be the same like before. And the typical thing for human beings is that they're not receptive to change. They're not wanting to change. They're not choosing to change. And that's why as things start to ascend more and more, it can start to become more painful and even more frightening because of not understanding. And so anything that happens considering from this day forward, at least I'm telling you that is what is transpiring with the weather. And I'm not saying that to have empathy for others who are experiencing a loss with their homes and what they're experiencing as a loss and separation from their family, but just understand that each soul has contracted, every soul, everyone has contracted for where they're to be and what they're experiencing in this time frame as we are going through all these shifts. And, you know, it's like I say this, that I'm already working on keeping up with myself energetically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, with everything, because there's so much messages. And so for those who are not even allowing themselves to keep up because it's too much, I'm saying that we were not created to be slowed down with everything. The spirit was orchestrating from the beginning of time to be a speed of light, because we are light. It's not just about the physical body. And if we still keep holding on to these old structures and old paradigms and what you hear in the news, guess what? You're slowing yourself down. You're not allowing yourself to speed up faster. And that includes paying attention to the signs that you see, even if it's on your windowsill. Today, what signs did I get? Did I get a lot of signs today? I got stink bug. I got twins, twinnery, the three of us. It's just so much different things. And so I know already what's happening, because everything, I'm putting it together like pieces. And this is what we're doing, because whatever happened to the over encompassing part of the soul, the entire body of the soul, because we're all one collectively. Okay. And that entire body of the soul fragmented itself to know itself. And the only way to know yourself is to have the opposite appear in your existence, the opposite, because that's what represents the polarity. In the case of twin souls, your twin is the mirror of you or your divine complement. It could even be a divine complement partner. And anything that comes up is a mirror for what we're to look at. Another thing that has been happening is that I've been having so many dreams back to back to do with my twin and my divine complement's mother and family and everything. And it's still tied to the matriarchal energy. And also with my mom, you know, and her transition date was on the 24th. So it's no coincidence with all of this. Okay. So I want you to understand that everything that has happened in the past to do with separation is what is happening in your life, whether it's through the weather, your relationships, color of your skin, and it's coming through the politics, the religion, your family. If you're experiencing difficulties with your family members and all that stuff, all of this is a part of what is awakening you to your true divine self, and also empowering yourself and really stepping into your sovereignty, because the sovereignty exists that also has to do with how you're not only stepping into your power, but also being authentic, living authentically, okay, and speaking your truth and not being afraid to speak your truth. Because if you continue to allow yourself to be dictated by someone, what they say, how they want you to be, where they want you to be, what career to have, you know, don't do that. Even if it's your passion, then you're stepping back into the control mechanism and also the fear-based system, you know, because a lot of things have come forth based on fear. Fear of what somebody says, fear of what somebody might do to you, fear of this and fear of that. And all it does is just keeps on going in that karmic energy and that karmic cycle for you. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about that I wrote down is what has happened in the collective to do with Doreen Virtue and Joel Osteen. And of course, the politics. Yes, of course, can't leave that out. Understand this. One of the things that was shown to me by Spirit, okay, is that we are on the path of sovereignty. I say that again. Sovereignty means that we are free to be who we are. And that means that the Spirit wants us to connect directly to source. There's no middleman. And so I'm telling you this, I grew up in church. And I've been to all the church and everything. And this is not about church. And this is about where we look into things beyond religion, okay? Because religion and politics is one of the things that have been put in place that has caused and propelled things to go into separation. And some of it is based on fear and putting out fear out there so that way you don't come into your own power and you let your power go away because of putting all of your faith and your life into what somebody else says to you. There's nothing wrong with getting information from others, but it's because of putting power into leaders and government and all of this stuff, whether it's your own pastor or if it's a public pastor, a public figure. This is about stepping into your truth, aligning with the Holy Spirit in the now moment, not something that was written in the past that has caused confusion. It doesn't mean that I don't use scriptures. I use scriptures, but guess what? There are codes in the scriptures. Some are things that were written to confuse, and some things were written to remind you, because it was all put in place as a coding system to unlock that code. So there's more things to shed from the things that have been taught from the past. And people get so caught up and wound up when it comes to labels, names, events, and constant same recycling of it. Slavery. Oh, this one fight. Black versus white. Italian, German, Chinese, Japanese. Who the fuck cares? Pay attention to what the message is for you, to where you are moving yourself to shift into another state and level of consciousness, so you really see what is beyond the veil, going beyond what you have been taught before, where you're going now on your journey and where it's taking you. Not based on just looking at the books. And also, yes, we've uncovered the lies and all these things, and it's time to stay in the now present moment of what is occurring in your life. What are the messages? What is the living word of God? What is Spirit showing you? Are you not paying attention? So you can understand and place yourself in a state of peace, so you're no longer controlled by others. And so what's happening is that with Doreen Virtues, was asked a very good question by Monique today. When she asked me, she just found out about Doreen Virtue and her cards and what happened. And I know there's some people that say they don't like cards because, they want to label it that it's evil and this and that. And that's another thing, again, that's a programming, a lot of deep layered programming. Everything is dependent on the energy that goes with it. Because even for me, in my case, I don't like to get anything that anybody else has had, like a vehicle, because it has energy, okay? So everything has energy. The Bible has energy. The books you read has energy. Where you live has energy. Don't tell me it doesn't, because it does, okay? Where you live has energy. The land that you're on has energy from people from the past. We're clearing out the energy of what has been held in place to the power that has been given to these books and things that are out there that you're reading that triggers you again into staying stuck again, because you're holding on to that belief of what you are believing because you were taught by your parents and your grandparents, instead of moving into that space of truth to where you should be and what brings you joy. And if you are not allowing yourself to be in that space, then that's when you miss the mark. You see, because most people, they teach sin is you're doing something bad, and there goes the programming of bad versus good, evil, the demons, the goblins, the ghosts, the bears, and all that stuff. And if you get offended, then that's okay, because, it's good to awaken yourselves to all of this, because sometimes it gets to a point where, hey, that's it. And, it's almost like every time I've had a dream where I'm on the train and there's some who are on the train with me, but they're not on that ride with me yet, because I keep going up more in these train stations. You know what I mean? And it's nothing against anyone to where they choose to be, because, sometimes it takes a word and it takes something for someone to hear, and then you start to shift. You see, shit happens when shift happens. And when you shift, shit happens also. It goes both ways. And so going back to Doreen Virtue, she got to a certain place where she is. And yes, she opened up others' eyes to their spirituality, okay? And using the cards as something, as a tool, because the cards can be used as a tool to what you want to see in the future as well, and what's happening as a guidance, okay? So we receive guidance in many ways. You can receive guidance through a book, and you can receive guidance through the cards and through a person. You can receive guidance from the birds and the trees and the flowers and the bees. You can receive guidance in many ways. Allow yourself to tune in and say, what message am I receiving? It could be the most subliminal question that you could ever get. And so even the cards that she was using, she decided to do away with it, is because she's holding on to an old structure from the religion and saying that she turned back to Jesus. And when it comes to Jesus, Jesus is a master. He's an ascended master. He was here to show us how we can also step into that God space and remembering ourselves and what we're doing for ourselves in mastering ourselves, mastering our lives. It's not about worshiping And if you get offended and offended by it, then you'll be okay. You will be all right. Because this has to do with the truth, because it sets you free. But at first it's going to piss you off. And so I must speak truth to what it is until when you're ready to hear it, then you shall receive it. And so Doreen Virtue now for herself, she has gotten to a point where some of us reach a certain level where we stop right there, and then some may revert back to another way. And I'm not saying that it's good or bad. It's just that sometimes that fear comes in based on the fact that if something feels like, this doesn't feel right, because a lot of times how spirit does things is that new information comes to me. That's happened to me so many times. When new information comes to me, you know what I do? I get fascinated more, because it's like an adventure. That's what it is, because I'm unlocking more information. Because for anyone to think that the consciousness and the thought of God just stops right here. Are you kidding me? There are planets among planets, universes among universes, and this planet is the slowest planet that could have. It gets to be so boring for me. It's just ridiculous. And I've had to come down. So thanks to my son Brand, he always helps. He always pops the balloon, and I'm right back down to, into this dimension, because I'm still in the physical body. But the fact remains is that as we continue to ascend, certain things is not going to resonate anymore. It's just not. And it doesn't mean we're going to love one another less, because if each aspect of ourselves, because we represent the microcosmic aspect of God, and as God itself, whether it's God, universe, Holy Spirit, same thing, no need to get hissy fit over the name, as I said before, chose and desired to know itself through us, through you and me and all of us, okay? And with that concept of it itself, it is bringing itself back together again through its parts of itself, which is us. And it has to be done in increments and waves. That's why they say there's waves of ascension. Use wisdom. Use intelligence with this as well. If we were all to be awakened at the same time, imagine how chaotic that would be, especially for those who are twin souls. Imagine how chaotic that would be. So it has to come in increments and waves while we have the separation. Some of us may go up in this level, and some may go this way, and some will go up here, then we catch up again, and then the separation again. So as the soul is going through these increments, as we are the parts of itself, there's some of us that are ahead of the game, as one would say. I said this yesterday to someone. I said, welcome to the Hunger Game, or welcome to, the Game of Thrones or something. I don't watch any of those shows. I did watch the movie Hunger Games. But what I'm saying is that this is like a movie, and you're all playing the characters of this movie. And so even as I go into the aspect of the religion and what has happened throughout history, as we know that names are changed. Yes, we know all of that. The point is, what messages are you receiving now that you can put together and piece together from what you may know from the past, and allow yourself to ascend through the information that you receive by staying present, okay? And when I think about all the other religious leaders and the political leaders out there, they're in place for you to be triggered, yes, into remembering yourself. So I know that there's a lot of you out there that have been disappointed by those who have shifted away from what they were teaching, or they're no longer teaching this or that. And you have to understand that everything serves its purpose. They say there's a time and a season and a reason, okay? And so with that in mind, it means that if they've stopped at a certain level and point, and of course you're seeing something more to do with them, this is about you tuning in to the connection that you have with God. It is your journey and your connection. And now's the time where things are starting to collapse even more, even with some twin flame teachers. That's even collapsing too. There's some twin flame teachers that are no longer putting out YouTube videos. They're not doing any more seminars and all these things, and Facebook, whatever the case may be. And then people are like, oh my God, where do I go? What do I do? Go within. Go within so you don't go without. Go within. Time to tune in now. Without the books, without whatever you've read, okay? Tune in. And then allow yourself to come back to connecting to someone, because, you know, anytime you stay too long from connecting to someone, things start to fall apart again. You know, that's what happens, because this is how you bring yourself into balance. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Okay. Another message that I want to give for twin flames is that, or twin souls, I prefer to say, if you know that you've been receiving a lot of energetic information, in other words, dream state, waking state, whatever it is in any case, but there's no physical contact. How long has it been? What is it that's being shown to you in that dream? Pay attention to everything that you receive from that message, and what is balancing in relation to you and your divine counterpart. Okay. If you know that there is something for you to do physically, do it. Because if you just have it one-sided where you're only doing everything, you know, energetically, like you're chanting, you're working on yourself and all that stuff, and self-love, yes, wonderful, yes, that is positive. But also, what else are you doing in a physical aspect to do with, what it is to bring yourself together? Even if it means that, well, I don't want to contact my twin because they're not speaking to me, or this is not happening, whatever. There is someone in your space that is presented to you from the Holy Spirit for you to work through them physically, because that's how it works. But it's to pay attention to that and not judge it and negate it and push it away, because then after a while it starts to just die and dormant. And then people wonder why nothing is moving in their life. Why isn't there something shifting? Because it still starts from within you, but you're still aligning together spiritually and physically with things. You know, it's, if you do too much physical and you're not focused on yourself, then, you know, it's weighing back over to the other side. And then it's time to come forth, because this is about how much we come back to that 0 point within ourselves and what we're bringing into balance. What are you bringing into balance? You know what I mean? And I guarantee you, if you're not aware or you're not sure of where you're being led with this, I know that the divine will definitely give you a sign and a message about it. I know that, because that's how it works. That's how it works. So one of the things too that Spirit wants me to talk about is looking at the lineage and shifts when it comes to ancestral beliefs, the matriarchy, because I kept getting messages, even something that was led to me from Patty about a week ago. And it has to do with how the matriarchal system is breaking down just as much as how the patriarchal system was broken down. And it has to do, once again, is the illusion of the physical separation. Okay. As we worked on everything to do with the patriarchal system and what was created with structure and control and power, now we're swaying back to the matriarchal energy that has gone on for a very long time, just as much. And how that can help you into coming into balance. But the key thing is to pay attention to what your relationship has been with your mother or any females in your family. You know what I mean? Because all of that is important when it comes to how you're shifting and being able to come into balance, to have a healthy relationship with yourself and a healthy relationship with your divine counterparts. Okay. And so how we're working through this, these shifts around relationships, because there's so much programming in this that some of us don't even realize how deep it goes and what the specifics, you know, that comes with it. So one of the things that was brought to my attention, you know, I was writing down some of the things that we get caught up in when it comes to the matriarchal frequency. And one of them is children that are born out of wedlock, and how it's labeled, because, you know, I have 5 children, and out of the 3 sets of children, it's 3 different men. So it's a stigma that's placed on the female, because if she has children from different men, oh, she's a this, she's a that, she's a whore, she's a stuff. But if it's in the masculine form, it's okay, it's all right. Whereas back in time, when I say back in time, in the beginning of time, how it was is that we were planting seeds on the earth, okay? And I don't mean like the literal seeds, but you know what I mean. We were planting a foundation of how we were mixing up genetically with different races and all that stuff. Because remember, we allowed ourselves to separate through the color of skin and also different cultures and all of that. But then once the religious political structures partook, then things were labeled when it comes to the fee, because the matriarchal energy or the feminine principle was taken out of the Bible. And if everyone knows, Jesus had 12 female disciples also. It wasn't just males, okay? And Mary Magdalene was his twin partner, twin flame. Okay, so he was also trying to bring on the frequencies on the planet during that time, but they were more backwards then than they are some now, and that's the truth. And so what we are doing now has never been done before. It has never been done before. This is what Spirit showed me from the very beginning. Everything to the existence on the other side that you're bringing into the physical body has not been done before. And that's why the message all the time is to pay attention to what is happening in your lane, what in the now moment, not in the past and what your mother do and the father do and this one do and the brother and what this. No, pay attention to what's happening now, because everything is shifting as far as our thought process and how we view things when it comes to relationships. The relationships that we're having with ourselves and with others, and those we've had relationships in the past to do with our mothers, our fathers, our sisters, grandparents. All of this is shifting. The younger ones know this. They know this because they're living in their truth more than those who are over the age of 30. They're still hanging on tight because this is what it said and I must do this, because they're in so much fear about it, and also not wanting and willing to change, especially when it comes to our viewpoints and what's projecting, and also, just not staying in the truth of what is when it comes to the desire of the heart, and speaking that truth, and not only speaking that truth, but living that truth authentically. So when I go back to the issue, to the stuff that has shown up in relationships, what I took notes when it comes to that is the stigma that's placed on people who get married because someone got pregnant. Okay, someone got pregnant to get married, cover it up, even though when you calculate when the baby come out and say, oh, she was pregnant. Right. Okay. And knowing that you get married, knowing that, that's not the reason to get married, because at some point it's going to collapse. At some point it's going to collapse. You see? Then you have those who have a baby for someone else, knowing that they were pregnant for someone else, but they still go in the relationship and it's deceptive. Even the word cheating, there is no such thing as cheating. Did you know that? Cheating is actually a word that is, when it says cheating, is somebody that's left out. And it has to do with if you're not speaking and living your truth. If you're not speaking truth to the person, but you're still going and being with someone else, knowing that you're staying with someone else, knowing that you're not really interested in that person. You're not in a true love space with that person, but you're still going on with it anyway. And sometimes there are people who want to please their family into going into these relationships knowing that it's not healthy, or even there's some cases where a mother knows that her child is being abused and saying, no, stay in it because, the Bible says you're supposed to stay married till death do you part, and you're already dying inside. I did a reading for someone last night and she was struggling. And I said, why would you fool yourself into thinking that if you're already finding your heart with who your true love is and you're staying married to someone, it's not because he was treating her badly, but there's no connection there. There's no connection there. And that's why this is important for those who are holding on to those structures of thinking that you're to stay in a relationship because you want to hang on to it because of what your fear is of what someone may say in your family or how that it may be perceived and all of that. And you can't set yourself free in that way. And usually 9 times out of 10, somehow one out of the two of them is still going to end up cheating, when that cheating is where the person has no knowledge of that person being with someone else, when that is not who they desire to be with. So all of those concepts and stuff is also a part of what is breaking down. There's also those who are sort of hiding their sexual preferences, and they feel like it would be an embarrassment to their family. When I say sexual preferences, whether or not it's someone that is same-sex, transgender, transvest. And I want you to understand again that everyone, whoever you are within your soul, is here to be in an expression of a higher love when it comes to the divine. And this higher love is expressed through each and every one of us in many, many ways and many forms. And even if you feel like it's not something you want to hear, whatever, well, eventually it's gonna just keep showing up in your space and showing up in your space until eventually, because each one of us have been everything. We've all been everything, every race, every creed, every culture, you name it, that we've been it, we've done it, you see? And this is about not placing judgment. And so some are walking around with judgment, guilt, shame around their sexuality, guilt and shame around sex, guilt and shame around the relationships and where they place it, all the labels that are placed around it. And that's when it becomes so sad. It becomes so sad because some people feel that they want to still stay in that relationship, even though that's not who they want to be with. And sometimes they end up going to go get married to someone else, knowing that that's not who they want to be within their heart. Okay. Or they stay in the relationship knowing that's not who they want to be within their heart. So that's one of the things that was, shown to me by spirit when it comes to relationships coming from the mother frequency. There's also this energy of the narcissistic mother, the ones who like to be in control of their children and who they want them to be with, and they have some sort of a feeling towards their child, and the child feels obligated to the mother, in what they want them to do, and they go along with it. And so that energy can pass on in this lifetime, even if it was from another lifetime. And it's being able to see beyond that veil to knowing what is really going on and healing from it. And it happens in many, many families, this control mechanism. Yes, it does. And so that's another thing that I was shown. Another thing is also the perception of what comes from the feminine when it comes to spirituality. Yeah. And when I say when it comes to spirituality, as far as connecting to the divine mother through the spiritual world, with rituals, candles, baths, incense, herbs, the speaking in tongues, because it's labeled and said that it's the devil, the evil. And if she has a menstrual cycle that is nasty, is bad, and this and that, and stay away from her, don't eat from her. And you see all those thoughts and judgments that's placed on the feminine is what is to shift, because the perception of her is what has been distorted, and how that is to shift with each person on understanding what does the feminine mean? What does it mean? Truly, truly understanding the history of it and how it has been put to shame so much, and thinking that the only thing that, especially those in the female body, is only for procreational purposes. Okay. And that is not the case. There is something to understand about the female body, and there's something to understand about the sexual energy, and there's something to understand about the feminine and the masculine energy and how it works together. But one must be born again. They must release those old paradigms in order to understand that. So all of that, and that part what I'm mentioning to you, is what is adding to the shifts as far as the relationships that are coming in now, in shifting away from being with this programming of the thoughts of males and females. And, there's some males who, they're not empowered within themselves. They give their power away, even to some females, where there's some females that are bullying them, and they hold that matriarchal energy of control over their partner. Okay. And all it is because they're just using them for monetary purposes, control purposes, or how it looks to be with them and all that stuff. And using the child, or using, something, whether they have something over on them or whatever the case may be. And sometimes it's in reverse, where it's the female that's allowing herself to be suppressed, where someone is controlling her because whether or not they're married or have a child together, or if it's a house they have or something physical, and they feel trapped. And, there is a way out of all of this. And this is about, once again, living and being in your truth, what you know to be true in your heart. What is healthy for you when it comes to the relationship you have with yourself and to each other? Because we are really integrating all of these new codes. That's what has been happening over the weekend with the Autumn Equinox. And because we had that solar eclipse that happened on August 21st, it already started from that time with the ripping, because I know some of you was also going through a lot of emotional pain. We were doing a lot of healing with the emotional body. And the emotional body is the most, I believe, is the most that we have had when it comes to pain and healing, because it has to do with what has been like, what do I call it? Has had a hold when it comes to humanity. And that's because there's so much manipulation that comes from people who use other people's emotions to try to get to them through their emotions, and either have them feel sorry for them, or they're looking sympathy. And, there's deception. And so they try to get what they want through manipulation. It starts from with the emotions. And there's some who hold things within themselves, and they're not allowing themselves to be in expression, to be an expression and to say how they feel and live through and operate through their feelings and aligning their feelings with their mind and not just going into the mind, well, I don't want to say this because then I don't want to start any trouble, or I don't want to say this because I don't want to hurt this person, where in the meantime, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting each other, you're hurting one another, you see? And that's why this has to do with speaking and living your truth, with that. So another thing too that has been a stigma on relationships, not necessarily related to the matriarchal, but people who think that you can't have a platonic friend as a male if you're a female, or a female to have a platonic friend as a male. Like, you know, oh, if someone has a male friend who's a female, then, oh, they must be doing something, or they must be having sex. And you see, it's all those type of, that frequency and that energy of thinking that you only can be with one person, and as far as expressing love and having that certain love for that person and a certain love for someone as a friend, and the stigma that's placed on it, and relationships fall apart because sometimes people want to relate to one another, because this is about us having interrelational relationships, interacting with one another, that is so important to understand. So another thing too is that there's nothing wrong with admiring someone. There's nothing wrong with telling someone that they look beautiful or they look pretty or anything like that. And it means that there's something that someone can only say it if they're not together. Meaning that if there's someone in a relationship and someone happens to pass by and say, oh, that guy looked good, and oh, she looks so sexy, and then the other person gets offended by it and want to hurt the person because of that. And all of that is another programming. That's another programming, and what causes certain elements of stigma in relationships, because people have been literally killed over that. They've been literally killed over someone just giving someone a compliment, you know. And that is sad in itself. But these are the things that do exist out there, that has existed for a long time when it comes to the perception of relationships and where it has taken us, and the dogma and the fear, where it's placed in relation to religion and politics. You know, there's even what has had to happen for people who are the same sex to get married, and what it has taken. Because I'm telling you, the next template that's coming up is for those who are in a higher love with having more than one divine partner. Okay. And that's something that most people may not be ready to hear it. But guess what, folks? That's a coming. It sure is. Because as I stated before, everything is shifting into what the true templating is of what has been created from the beginning of time. We're coming back to a natural state to who we are, a natural state. Because some of the dreams that I was having for the past several days and weeks had to do with my divine counterparts and what feeling is coming up, to do with what their mother and family may say, to do with the aspect of that template of female and two males, and male and two females, or three females or three males, or two, whichever. This has to do with what is an expression when it comes to love. And so there's a new templating of relationships, and the other templating, whether it's even if it's a male and female, that other new template is where you are connecting to someone. It's not about polygamy and being with multiple people all at once. This has to do with being with your true divine connection, who you're connected to. You will feel it and know it in your heart. Most of the world is in such a disarray because there is hardly any connection. There's hardly any intimacy that comes with others. And the intimacy is also in relation to even just talking to one another, connecting, speaking from your heart, being playful, joyful, being in gratitude about the space that you have with someone. Do you see what I'm saying? All of this is what plays a part in coming into union. Coming into union is not only about having your twin and your divine partner to yourself. It has to do with coming into union with your families, coming into union with your children, coming into union with your extended families, your neighbors. And I'm not saying that if someone is displaying hate and indifference towards you, that, you know, how can I come into union with them? There is something that is still coming and projecting from you that is showing in your space as to why you're experiencing it. And they're helping you. So you can thank them from the bottom of your heart to what they're showing you and what is releasing from within you. everything that's even showing up now in relationships is even in relationship to black and white. You know, that black and white thing, how black people feel about this and how white people feel about this and all the labels and stuff, you know, and all the different cultures. And so everything still has to come up to the surface, even and including whoever is supposedly running this country, where he's not running this country. Actually, he's actually doing such a great job of what's coming up to the surface, what's hidden. And there's more things that are hidden that's coming up from the unconscious and becoming conscious. Okay. And even though there can be all these controversies and all these things and blames and all of that, and whether it comes through as humor or anger or fear or acceptance, it is happening. And it is happening because this has to do with what is awakening within ourselves individually and collectively, what it takes to be awakened, what it takes to come back into that true state of where we are in terms of relationships. It's already started where there's some who are separating and there's some who are coming together. And, you know, this is about coming into unity. When I went to Harlem on Saturday to take my daughter for her audition, I was in Harlem, and I haven't been in Harlem in a long time. I used to work in Harlem. And it was so fascinating for me because I was able to experience a dichotomy again, okay? Because I was among my colored people, my colored folks, excuse me, and it was just amazing. You know, I was able to get my incense really cheap, and I was able to get my vegetables and stuff like that. And just seeing how everyone was interacting. And I was going to the famous Apollo Theater where all those famous people started out, Michael Jackson and Prince and Patti LaBelle and, you know, all of them. And just knowing that everyone was just doing their hustle, you know, they're just doing their hustle and everything. Everybody trying to make it, everybody trying to do something. And so what was fascinating is that when I left from there with my daughter, and I was walking back to my car just to get some food, and I saw this hearse that was there, and it said Unity too. So if anyone's paying attention, I posted already on Facebook all the syncs that I was getting that day. You know, when I saw twins on the license plate when I was on my way down, and I saw it today again. So that was a confirmation of something. And I saw the hearse said Unity too. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But right away, I stopped in my tracks because I knew that it was a significant message. And so what message I received from Spirit, because that when I saw that, it wasn't just to do with myself, it had to do with everyone. And I was to share this. I was to share this message. And I didn't want to share it in writing. I wanted to share it where you're hearing it coming from my mouth. Okay, coming from my soul. And so the message I received was that there's a death of separation. A death of separation. The mere fact that the Unity number 2 was on the license plate of a hearse, because it was a hearse, Hearse, there is a death of separation. So now unity is what is coming forth. And as I was walking, I was in the process of messaging with Tavon. And I'm walking, and I'm there messaging and talking to him. And all of a sudden I see on the storefront Union. And I that time, that's when Spirit does that, that's when my attention just goes bam again. And I'm like, wow, there is union that is coming forth in the energy field, and it is happening. And it is happening through Colin Kaepernick. It's happening through the NFL. It's happening through the person who supposedly run the country, because I'm not calling no name, because if I call the name that I call him, you might get offended, and I don't give a flying feather. And then I think about all the others who may not have understood me, and I said, no matter what, it's still in unity. You see, it's still in unity. It's still in unison to everything that's shifting and changing. So now fast forwarding, I leave from there, and I ended up taking my kids to BBQs. I haven't been there in a while. And I'm taking them, and I decided to go to 42nd Street. So I go to 42nd Street, and oh my God, I've never seen so much people. I mean, it was just people it reminded me so much like I was in the Matrix movie with billions of people. I was like, where did so much people come from? So much people. And then I saw people were going to the plays, and people were going to Madame Tussauds, you know, the Wax Museum, and the movies and everything. And everywhere was packed. And anybody that knows me, I don't like being around a crowd of people. Even when going through this ascension, you in the beginning stage, you feel like you don't want to be around anyone. But in this case, I have really acclimated most of my higher self, and then some, and it just keeps on coming anyway. And so it didn't affect me, but I was definitely supposed to make an observation. And so the observation I made, of course, not only being around the people, because the energy was very high. It was very high and thing. And I started speaking in tongues from when I was in Harlem. I did it because I was shifting, because what I was shifting, what Spirit was showing me, is shifting from the poverty consciousness into the wealth consciousness. Both aspects together, so things come into balance. When I remember myself from back in the New Kingdom, everyone had a home. Everyone had food. Everyone had everything. Everyone was at peace. You see? And so to come back into that peaceful state, we must shift within ourselves for what is to be returned to the earth, to what we are gifted to have, our kingdoms, that is back again. But in order to get back to that state, we got to release all of the baggage that we've had. And releasing the baggage is not just this lifetime. We have carried a lot of stuff from many lifetimes. And as we release that stuff, we're also bringing in the new DNA codes. Listen again, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, it is happening. New DNA codes that each one of us have some, and whenever the languages are coming out, those codes, it's an interaction that's happening with each one of us individually, or however. It doesn't matter to wonder when it's going to happen, who it comes from, whether it's me or someone else. It is going to be on time, because each one of those codes is what helps to unlock and unveil. And it also clears out, and then it allows the space to be made for the new to come in. And that's the reason why there's so much shifts happening with relationships, shifts happening with you moving, shifts happening with you breaking off with someone. A child goes away. This one is passing on, and there's death, the physical transition out of the body. Sometimes it's happening where the death is occurring because that person may be carrying the old frequency, and they're choosing to ascend to on the other side, out of the physical body, and they are helping you. Whatever, regardless of the circumstances surrounding what you call death, they are assisting you with your ascension and what is shifting that's within your generational line, because all of that shifting is what is helping for things to be templated with the new codes of the mother, the new codes of the father. The children already, the ones who are between infancy, I should say from conception, I should say, to up until the age of 7, they are aware of themselves, so it's not necessarily for them to be involved with anything karmically. The new children that are going to be conceived are coming in that may not have ever incarnated ever before, and they're coming in with new divine codes to help with the shift that's happening on the planet. So whatever comes into balance has to do with those who are leaving, so that way things come into balance with those children that are incarnating and coming in, and they're being born with parents who are awakened. So we're not going to be repeating those cycles of karma and pain and death and all of that stuff. All of that stuff that has been written in scriptures and Quran and scrolls, whatever you call it, there is some truth to it. So there is no need for anyone to catch a hissy fit, even if someone is giving information through scriptures or through the planets, because everything is important. Even with the cards, when I do reading for anyone, if I do readings for anyone, I always start reading first clairvoyantly, and then I do the cards after to get a little bit more clarity. So it does carry energy. Everything carries energy, and it also carries truth and some knowledge. So it's important to allow yourself to get all of the information. Everything to what we have created throughout humanity's history has played a part in falling asleep and waking up. Both. All of it. All of it makes up to who we are in unity and in unison. You see? Because the one language that remains, that speaks truth, that clears up and brings back together is what? What language is that? Love. Love is the universal truth. Love is the universal language. It's what sets you free. And that means that you're living in your truth with love, with who you're in love with, who you're around with, what's encompassing around you, to all of the information that you're receiving, and allowing yourself to receive new information. And that means that you're allowing yourself to connect to God, connect to the Holy Spirit, whatever name you want to call it. Connect. And even if it sounds too good to be true, or if it seems crazy, it's not crazy, because you have to be out of your mind. Really, truly have to be out of your mind to really understand yourself with this, because this is about remembering yourself and where this places you on your journey right now during this ascension and during this ascension time frame. And no matter what, we are still on our path. We're still on our path. So it's not about labeling someone else's path or judging anyone else's path, because it's these judgments and criticizing and name calling and all of that stuff is what keeps you still down. Okay. And if we get out of our head with it and then attune to what is being shown to you energetically, because we're all carrying something energetically from the past, and that is what's clearing right now, and it's shifting right now. You'll find yourself being in places, saying things, and wonder, where did that come from? Because it came from something that you've experienced from the past that you are now not only healing, but you're also bringing yourself together. Because it's just like Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. If it wasn't for all the king's horses and king's men, then this is what you do, and it is your self journey. I don't care whether you have a twin flame template or whether it's a divine complement or soulmate or whatever. They are activating you to who you are, to come back into balance with yourself. That's their purpose. That's their purpose. And so is anybody else in your life, but it's just that that's an even greater mirror. And so that purpose that they serve for you is a gift to you from and through the universe for who you are becoming and where it's placing you on the planet. So I don't know if anyone else, I know I've did quite a bit of talking. If anyone has any questions, anything that you would like to ask me, whether it's personal or to do with someone else, please do. Ask me any questions that you might have as I continue talking. I wanted to get all of this information out there to what I was being guided to in the meantime. Another thing too, I know that has happened is when it comes to the maternal, matriarchal thing that's breaking us, those who are the mommy's boys. Yep, I'm looking over my notes here. Remember the movie Psycho where, there was that Oedipus complex, and that's something else that is also to be shifted. To be shifted from that, and the narcissism, as I mentioned before. Also the programming on who and what is being controlled with getting who to be married to, because the true marriage is in heaven. Okay, this is a holy matrimony. This is a holy matrimony, and this holy matrimony is what is coming forth within ourselves when it comes to our true connection to God, and it becomes something so magical that all the gifts start to return through each and every one of us when it comes to this matrimony. And it's so important to understand what this true marriage is, because as each person starts to come into themselves with this marriage that you have, this union that is within you, and then your partner is also sovereign within themselves, that is what comes into balance as far as having a healthy relationship, a healthy partnership. And it's even important to do that with your children, because that paves the way and sets the path to them, for them, and the type of relationships that they're also having with themselves and with others. And that is how things become like a domino effect, and where things are not hidden like it used to be, you see, because it's out in the open and it all comes into balance. So this is what I wanted to say so far for today, and to get out this information on what we're healing and understanding why we are experiencing the things that we're experiencing on the planet when it comes to the weather, when it comes to, the controversies out there when it comes to equal rights and who we are. And it's about having that power and that solidarity within ourselves, that even sometimes when we're doing it in a more silent way or a physical way, it is still something that's happening in motion, because a lot of us have given away our power, and the power has been given away through voting and politics, through religion and priests and pastors, and a lot of times most of these people have so much dysfunction within themselves, and how many people out there that are given these leadership positions, and it's a continuous basis of giving your power away, confessing to someone who also has their own issues. It's time for you to confess to yourself and to bring your own connection and power to yourself. And remember that you have the power to shift and change things, and you don't need to have to get it from someone else. You see, because if you keep putting your power back into other people and the politicians and the religious structures and all that stuff, then eventually something is going to come out that's going to be shocking for you and disappointing for you. And then you're going to say to yourself, oh my God, what is this? What do I do now? I'm lost. You see, because it's now for you to find yourself and to become the master of your own universe. You're the one that brought all of these experiences to yourself to remember yourself. That's how it works. And every person who is playing a role in this, whether it's someone who's a celebrity or a non-celebrity, it still plays a part in your awakening. Okay? And with all things, we give thanks, you know, in all things we give thanks. So we give thanks for this because this is helping to facilitate you awakening within yourself and where it's taking you for your ascension. So does anyone have any questions that you would like to ask me, or anything that I may have discussed or not discussed that you haven't heard that you would like to hear me say? Please speak now and do not hold your peace. I would be more than happy to discuss anything further that you might like to know. Because when it comes to me doing these Facebook Lives, it's like I have to be like in like that space where I'm like, oh, okay, I have some little time for me or something like that. Or, you know, and I prefer to speak when I know that I covered plenty, right, Deara? How are you? Greetings. I know that there's some of you that sent me. I'm gonna scroll and see whoever sent messages to me. I wasn't being rude. I wanted to just get it out and not leave anything out for anyone. So I just say greetings to each and every soul that has come on here to be with me, whether you came on, came off, come back again. It's okay, because there's a lot to absorb. There's a lot to bring into ourselves, you know. I mean, like I said, this has never been done before. This has never been done. I love you too, Danielle. Thank you for joining me in this moment. I really appreciate all the love, and I just send so much love to each and every soul, you know, in all ways. So I'm going to say a little affirmation prayer and just bring a little bit more of the light language to help for things to come even more into balance for each and every one of us. You said, any advice on taking a leap of faith when things don't make sense? Okay, so when you say taking a leap of faith, Lauren, to me, it makes me feel like you're having some fear, okay? Because faith is not about hoping for something. It's like you know already beforehand. It's like you already know, and this is where you step into your goddess center in knowing that whatever you're creating, that it is done, and whatever you're creating, that you focus on the end result and not worry about the in-between stuff, which I kind of feel like you're concerned about what's happening in between what you're creating. And anything that we're creating, sometimes it doesn't make sense, and it's not for us to try to figure it out. That's when you're going in the mind again, and it becomes linear, and it's time to come back into your heart and go into your feeling. Does this feel right? This is working for me. I may not have the answer, but I know that that power and creativity that I have within me is making it happen. And I'm aligning with the Holy Spirit with what I'm creating, and so it is. Okay? So you're putting it in a space of knowing that whatever it is that you are creating, that it is done, and there's no need to fear. Okay? Let go of your fears. Okay. Deara, you had your first preliminary divorce hearing today. Oh, okay. I feel all is well. All is well. Everything is in divine order, no matter how it looks and feels. And especially since what's interesting is because you're having the preliminary hearing during this phase of Libra, once again, this is about everything coming into balance. So, Deara, what I'm hearing from Spirit is that everything that seemed like it went like not working, or it feels like things were falling apart, or You tried to do certain things and it was going against you. Well, now it's shifting to the other side where things are now starting to move into your favor. Things are going to start to work out in your favor, and you're to just know and to trust that, okay? And not have any fear surrounding that, no matter how it looks and feels. I really feel things are going to start shifting now into your direction, because if it was always on his side, now Spirit says it's going to start to balance out and come over into your side. And I feel he's going to start to look at things differently also, even though it may feel like as if he's very, how do I call it? Spirit is saying it's like he's bullheaded, and he says one thing out of his mouth and then he does another. Like, I just feel like he shifts and it causes and creates confusion and stuff like that. So what I'm hearing is that he's going to start to see things from a different light, and things are just going to start to come into a peaceful state, if that makes any sense to you. That's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm feeling. So, And just stay in your truth and stay in your power, because, you know, the truth, one thing I know is when you're speaking the truth from 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 6 months ago, you don't have to worry about whether what you said before, because that truth is what is keeping things in your favor. You know what I mean? And not shifting away from it, because the truth speaks for itself, you see? And don't worry. You're going to be, how do I put it? Your children, okay? Don't worry. It's happening. It's happening. I'm telling you, between now and the end of the year, things are going to start moving even more rapidly. It's going to be powerful frequencies that are going to be coming through for a lot of us. And even some of the things that we think we know, there's still more stuff that's going to be downloading to us. And for some, it's going to be like a shock to the system, because these old templating of how we've lived, how we've been in relationships, how we've lived our lives, you know, the same mechanism, get up, go to work, do this, do that. It's all of that is going to be shifting also. And so we're ahead of the game in terms of where we place ourselves with how we've lived our lives, and what we haven't had. And so we already know what it's like, you know, for us who are kind of ahead of things. We know what it's like when we don't have certain things anymore. We know what it's like to go through certain experiences that's not fun. And we're used to it by now. But there are those who are not. And some of us look and say, oh, it's not fair. This person, you know, this is going well for them. And you're trying to understand. But it's okay. Don't think about that, because you see, we're the pioneers to what we're experiencing. So when the time comes, everyone is going to be stripped of something to come to some greater wisdom through that. And we're expressing it in many ways, in different myriads, okay? And because we're in expression in so many myriads, it is okay to let go and not be in judgment of it, okay? So even the past relationships that you have, let's not be in judgment of those past relationships. Just look at it as what you are healing within yourself and shifting within yourself to get you prepared for your ultimate divine partnerships. Okay, that makes any sense. So if there's anyone else have any more questions before I'm feeling the heat because of all of this download. No lessons learned, darling. You're just awakening yourself. You're awakening yourself. That's what's happening. You're awakening yourself, and you're allowing yourself to become more empowered and remember yourself as the queen that you are. It's all about queenship. It's all about queenship and kingship, you know. That's right. The two, they go hand in hand, hand in hand. It's awesome. So let's just take a deep breath, and inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Mother, Father, God, I want to thank you for this day, September 26th. I thank you for this moment. I thank you for this time in history. All those who are here on the planet, as we continue to ascend and to awaken each other and come back into unity, as we continue to remember that we separated ourselves in order to come back into the wholeness of ourselves, to help us to remember our true divine gifts, and to know that everything that we put out there in spoken word and thought and feelings is what we are manifesting. I thank you for everything, for what we're doing as far as the connection we have to ourselves and to each other and to Mother Earth and to every single soul out there, no matter what purpose they serve, that we do know that even if we don't understand their purpose, that no matter what, you are on purpose, and that's all that matters, is that you are on purpose. I thank you for all of this that is coming through, this light, this Christ consciousness that is anchoring more and more into ourselves as we bring in the divine codes through our etheric bodies, our emotional bodies, our mental bodies, our physical bodies, our galactic bodies, all of the bodies that we have acquired and bring together in wholesomeness. We thank you for all these divine codes that are coming through and flowing through us in frequency, what's bringing us and helping us to come into more balance, more shifts, more outcomes of circumstances and things that we've had out there that is coming into alignment. I thank you for this alignment that is also showing up for each and every one of us, whether it comes through from hearing a word, a spoken word, a song, whether it comes through a bird or the trees or the air or a song or someone. I thank you. We thank you for this coming together, no matter how it looks and feels to each and every soul. And so it is. Aramashanda le kitari kitondar pa kontoshinamate. Ira mikito shimba de pekoni lamdar, bekitoni lamdar, katonunia sara pakachokuniene. Aina meon namnaina, ikanayunum namnaya, kanakunyam naina, no naino nam no yam. Oyamnanya, inonya, nimia, nemetonya, dirokunya, mi amdero, me la cantoniero, betano y coya, ayana que no ya, me quedo miera, yane, ane, une, me conne, me que tonde, ane, Agnero cunere, becche tonere, betto cunere, manne, unere, anne, une, con unere, che non dere, che tonere, me cunere, agne, unere, becche tonere, con tonere, I send you so much peace and blessings on this day, and I'm so thankful and grateful for however and whichever way that the messages are received on this divine day. Peace be with you. I love you all, beloveds. Take care and keep loving you.